The story begins with the main character thinking that he and his sister would have a very ordinary life. But one day, the teenager got dragon blood in his eyes and everything changed radically. Powerful summoners entered the human world and real chaos began. It was like a whirlpool of fate pulled Xiao in and gave him a great opportunity to prove himself. However, life is not so simple and always presents unexpected surprises. But the young master was not going to give up and continued to fight for his future. Despite the fact that his friends constantly betrayed him and his enemies mocked him, Xin Yu intended to climb to the top and thereby prove his strength to everyone. 1,000 years ago, absolutely all magical beasts were ruled by the Dragon Clan, and the most important ruler was the demonic god, and it was he who sat on the throne. The ruler had excessive ambitions, and everywhere he appeared, he only wreaked havoc. His army of magical monsters began to take over the human world. He sought to plunge humanity into despair. But it was in the face of death that people revealed their mysterious potential. A select few were even able to gain the ability to control demons. Such powerful people were called trappers. They could tame almost any animal, which greatly facilitated the confrontation between people and dragons, who no longer seemed so strong. One day, over the northern region of Qingfeng City, a magical monster was shot down. The dragon in turn fell into a residential area, and emergency assistance was needed. And then, young cultivator Xiao from the 3rd year of high school suddenly showed up. The demon collapsed right in front of him. Xin Yu watched in horror. But having landed extremely painfully, the dragon lost too much blood, in which the young master literally bathed. The main character was shocked by what he saw. Then he heard this voice. He spoke about the concluded agreement and called on the spirits of the void. At this moment, the dragon released its magical attack with the last of its strength. However, he was still defeated by the fiery lion. The young cultivator didn't really understand what was happening. Stunned, Xiao sat in his destroyed house and could not believe that this was all for real. Suddenly, he opened his eyes and saw a huge lion and Su Ruin in front of him. The young lady was the director of the Azure Dragon Academy and approached the young man. The girl stated that she would compensate for the damage to the guy's house and pay compensation on behalf of the academy. Then Xin Yu saw a real trapper for the first time, after which Su and his charges flew away. Xiao looked at the card that Ruin handed over and thought only of one thing: how much he wanted to become a trapper. But without the beast, he could not pass the appropriate exam, and there was no money to buy a pet. At that moment, a dog with an unknown sign on its head suddenly ran up to him. The dog acted as if it saw its owner and began to play with Xin Yu. Naturally, the teenager wondered if this animal could be tamed. It was actually a storm dog. It had a weak bloodline and did not require much spiritual power, but there were only 3 days left before the national exam, and Xiao might not make it in time. In this connection, the guy went to a local trapping store in Qingfeng City. Xin believed that it would be better to sell him to someone who could really take care of him. Since he has no future with him, it is also quite difficult to feed the storm dog. Suddenly, the owner of the trading store came out to him and asked what he needed. The young man offered him to buy a dog. The store owner began to take a closer look at the dog. Then he stated that he did not need a storm dog because he had a weak bloodline and did not evolve. The puppy got scared and buried itself in Xiao's clothes, while Yu urged the merchant not to scream. But at this time, a system appeared and gave a complete description of the dog, which said that it could evolve. The perplexed teenager rubbed his eyes, thinking that he had imagined it all. However, the program window did not disappear anywhere, and Xin wondered if the dog could really become stronger. After all, the system said that he had a hidden path to improvement. But the store owner said there was no mysterious improvement for the storm dog. The surprised guy asked if the seller really couldn't see this system window. Then Zhao realized that only he could see it. At that moment, his classmate and part-time son of the richest man in the city suddenly appeared. His name was Su Jie. He began to gloat about the dog and say that Xin would not pass the exam. Yu reacted aggressively. But Su continued to laugh at him, saying that Lin was absolutely right about him. After all, he would never pass the trapper's test, especially with this simple dog. The stunned teenager asked about Jiang. Su said that from now on she was his ex-girlfriend. After all, now Lin is dating him, because she doesn't need a ragamuffin like him. A moment later, Jiang approached Ji and said that she was looking everywhere for him. Seeing her ex-boyfriend, the businesswoman said that everything was over between them. Xiao got angry and decided to remind her who exactly helped her when she was at her lowest point. After which he left in an unknown direction. Su began shouting in his back that he had no right to talk to her like that. Xinyu, in turn, decided to fully concentrate on the evolution of the storm dog. After some time, the long-awaited trapper's exam began in the center of Qingfeng, to which, of course, Xiao went. Everyone started laughing at him, saying that he didn't even have a beast. But at the same time, he somehow applied to the Azure Dragon Academy. Those around him were shocked by this news and did not understand how such a loser wanted to get into the best academy. Xinyu himself wanted only one thing: to prove to everyone that he was a worthy candidate. The young master approached the teacher and said that he had appeared for the exam. The admissions teacher at the Azure Dragon Academy named Chen asked if his name was Xiao. Yu responded positively. Qingyan remembered that this was the same young man who submitted the application. At this moment, the sarcastic Su said that Xin was not on friendly terms because only a few people had been able to apply in 8 years. Adding that none of them could pass this exam, the main character tried not to pay attention to it. Zhe continued to state that if he succeeds in entering the academy, he is ready to kneel. The young cultivator said that in this case his knees would soon be worn out. Then he turned to the teacher and urged him to start this exam. Chen warned the young man that if he failed the test he would never be able to enter their academy again. However, the confident Xiao showed a desire to try his luck, and the students' gloating laughter did not stop behind him. Qingyan raised his hand to the magic sphere and said that the first test is a test of spiritual strength. Xinyu placed his hand on the sphere and held his breath, hoping for a good result. After a couple of seconds, the teacher voiced it. The spiritual power was 316 units, which was a pretty bad result. Of course, Jay and the others did not miss the opportunity to laugh at him once again. Chen, in turn, sighed heavily and called the next candidate, saying that Xiao. Xiao did not take the exam. However, moments later, the number on the magic sphere began to increase sharply. Thus, Yu's spiritual power was 621 points, then it was 711. Everyone was in shock and could not believe what was happening. After a few more seconds, the number changed to 802 units. Everyone believed that the device for measuring force had broken down, since the number 956 had already appeared on the sphere. The indicator constantly increased at short intervals and exceeded 1,000. What was an absolutely incredible result. Even the teacher did not expect this. Instead of ridicule, others began to hate. They could not understand who Xiao really was. After all, the indicator of spiritual strength is directly related to the trapper's potential, and every 100 units allow you to conclude a contract with one magical beast. And in the future, Xinyu may even become a 10-star trapper, which is already incredible. Over the past decades, only a few such people have appeared in the land of the dragon. Suddenly, Qingyan said that Ning Shuang had only 2 points more to show, and Xiao was truly a genius. The embittered Jiang said that he would definitely not pass the next test, because the exam was divided into 2 tests. But as soon as the teacher began to conduct the next test, an assistant called out to him. The guy whispered in his ear that the spiritual power meter had malfunctioned, and in fact the sphere showed 1,032 points. Chen ordered the assistant not to tell anyone about this, but he himself understood that the boy was really talented. After which, Qing finally announced the start of the second part of the exam, the Magic Beast Bloodline Quality Test. In this connection, the teacher asked the candidate to summon his tamed animal. Xinyu immediately began summoning a storm dog named Black Fang. Everyone was eagerly awaiting the appearance of the young master's magical beast. However, when they saw the dog, everyone was perplexed, realizing that the main character was finished. People began to say that a storm dog was the worst choice for a pedigree test. Chen began to realize that the young cultivator would not be able to pass the test with such an animal. And just as the teacher was about to make a disappointing verdict, the dog began to mutate. Everyone present was dumbfounded and just watched what was happening. After a couple of moments, he turned into a huge, terrifying wolf. In fact, this was one of the stages of the beast's evolution. Qingyan immediately began to examine it. Finally, the teacher realized that this was the second form of wolf evolution and was satisfied with this result. Looking at the teenager, he realized that this boy was really well prepared. Ultimately, Chen congratulated Xinyu for entering the Azure Dragon Academy. Ji and Lin, in turn, did not understand how he managed this and hurried to leave. However, the guy did not allow them to do this and urged Su to fulfill his promise. An extremely arrogant classmate began to behave aggressively and said that Xiao should know his place. Adding that he was not going to kneel in front of him, Yu instantly called Blackfang, which instantly put Ji in a humiliating position in front of everyone. Gritting his teeth, Su asked the young man for forgiveness, but this no longer mattered. Because Jinyu was pleased with himself and the work done in the exam, so he just left. Suddenly Jiang rushed to him and asked him to start over. Xiao, in turn, pushed her aside and declared that everything was over between them. The girl fell to her knees and began to apologize to the teenager. But this did not help her. Sin wanted to tell his sister about entering the Azure Dragon Academy as soon as possible. But when Yu got through to the girl, the only response was the screams of people. In fact, at that moment, monsters attacked the farmer's market on the outskirts of the city. Sister Xiao covered the lost child with herself to try to calm the girl down. However, at that moment, a huge demonic scorpion approached them. It seemed like nothing could be done. The girl just closed her eyes and hugged the baby tighter. The young master rushed to his sister. Crowds of frightened people ran towards him. The main character could not understand what was happening at all. Everything was shrouded in fire. At that moment, the young cultivator discovered a scorpion near his sister. In connection with this, the guy and his dog instantly rushed to the girl's aid. Suddenly, the system asked the owner whether to activate the dog's abilities. Without thinking twice, the teenager confirmed and pressed the appropriate button. After which he ordered his four-legged friend to immediately act and save his sister, but Black Fang seemed not to understand him. Meanwhile, the monster got even closer to the girl, who was moving backwards with the girl. Xiao began to remember how Ruan cast some kind of spell on her pet to activate it. Xinyu, in turn, tried to remember her words, but there was no time left. Finally, the guy began to read a magic spell, and the dog began to behave differently, and soon he completely transformed into a huge wolf, who rushed to the aid of the young lady. Realizing that this was working, Yu continued to control his pet, as a result of which he gave him an order. Black Fang, in turn, generated a kind of fiery ball. A moment later, a fiery ray struck the huge scorpion and eventually smashed it into small pieces. Stunned, Zhao finally realized the full power of the trapper and hurried to his sister. The girl thought that the wolf also intended to attack her, but Xin arrived in time. The concerned guy immediately asked her if she was okay. The sister replied that she was fine, and asked in response if he was injured. Yu couldn't help but declare that he had finally entered the Azure Dragon Academy. He is also a trapper. At that moment, the joyful dog rushed into the arms of his owner. No less happy, Zhao said that this dog was his contract animal, adding that this was a hellish storm wolf named Black Fang. The sister was surprised. The surrounding townspeople were shocked by what had happened and said that the monster was finally dead. The young man proudly stood opposite them and confirmed that now they were not in danger. At that moment, the tearful woman ran up to her daughter and began to thank the trapper. The girl instantly rushed to her mother, sobbing with happiness that everything turned out okay. Meanwhile, something began to glow in the body of the defeated demon, and Jin came closer. The system told the guy that this was the core of a magical beast that increased attack. Yu took the crystal in his hands and began to carefully examine the initial stage core with the poison attribute. Then he gave it to his pet to eat so that it would evolve. People in turn called Zhao their hero and thanked him for his help. The rescued girl suddenly ran up to Xin and declared that she also wanted to become a trapper. The young man stroked her head and said that in the future she would definitely succeed. By that time it was already late night, and the guy went home to sleep. His sister sneaked into his apartment unnoticed through the hole made by the dragon. She watched Xinyu sleep for a long time. Suddenly the teenager turned over to the other side. The girl was shocked to see the wolf symbol on his back. The young lady instantly went into another room and called her patron, telling him that the curse of the dragon rune was still in effect and the seal of the dragon's essence was not touched. But she couldn't understand one thing: why Xiao entered into a contract with a magical beast. The unknown person ordered her to continue to monitor the teenager and not leave him a single step. The girl in turn agreed and stated that everything would be done in the best possible way. The next day, city residents came to the railway station to see off the main character and his sister. They collected provisions and some money for the journey for the young master. Yu, in turn, thanked the kind people, after which the young cultivator said that he would definitely come to them during the holidays. Finally, the train arrived and Xiao hurried with his sister to go inside, where they sat down in their seats. But after a few hours, monsters were discovered on the railway section. After just a couple of minutes, they successfully passed the dangerous zone with demons. Thus, Xin's journey to Longyin City to study at the best academy continued. However, the train suddenly shook and the guy could not understand what was happening. The driver reported that a flock of three-eyed giant monkeys had been spotted ahead and called for caution. At the same moment, the ceiling of the train began to crack at the seams. The young man realized that one of the animals had already come to visit them. Suddenly, a huge monkey broke through the ceiling and climbed into the carriage. Xinyu ordered his sister to sit still and not stick out. The dumbfounded girl asked what he intended to do. Xiao silently went to help people, ignoring his sister's demand to stop. At that moment, a giant gorilla jumped towards him. It seemed that a collision could not be avoided. Suddenly, a certain fox attacked the magical beast, and the monkey retreated back. Qin urged the guy not to stand there and help her defeat this monster. Yanzhan herself began to finish off the beast with the help of her abilities. Her pet fox was extremely successful in helping her owner in this difficult task. The system immediately gave Yuya information about the fox and the daughter of the head of the Heaven Guild. By that time, Shin himself recognized her as the brave Qin, who continued to beat the gorilla. One of the passengers shouted that they were saved, as a trapper had come to their aid. Xiao immediately called on all passengers to leave the carriage and move to another one for safety reasons. After all, he understood perfectly well that monkeys always stay in a pack and do not attack people alone. The teenager then released his black fang and ordered him to help John, who, meanwhile, with her three-tailed fox, was still successfully dealing with monsters. But suddenly she was surrounded by two more gorillas. Xinyu urged her to be careful, after which he used the Bond of Hell skill, and the wolf fearlessly rushed to the attack. Thus, all the giant apes were bound with strong chains. Surprised, Qin noticed that she did not expect to meet another trapper here. The girl thanked the guy for his help, but the modest Xiao said that anyone in his place would have done the same. At this time, Xinyu began to scan the magical fox Yanren. He discovered that she had post-traumatic stress disorder, which left the beast depressed. What the young man hastened to tell her owner about, asking if the fox was hurting herself, Qin asked how he knew this. Xiao decided to lie that he supposedly read a manual on diseases of magical beasts. Yan, in turn, thanked the teenager and stated that she would begin treating her in the near future. Then the girl hugged the guy and said that from now on he was her younger brother. The young man was surprised. Xin's sister clearly didn't like the situation and their sudden friendship. Besides, she had her own task, and she couldn't leave things to chance. At this moment, the protagonist's sister apologized to Qin and said that she was his sister. However, a young lady named Yan accepted her challenge and decided to play this game. Jan instantly grabbed the young master's hand and declared that she was also his sister. The girls argued among themselves for a long time about whose brother he was, which was extremely stupid. But the girls did not even think of stopping this circus, continuing to irritate Xinyu. After some time, they finally arrived at the Azure Dragon Academy. Dean Lin Sang, in turn, greeted the freshmen with pleasure, after which he asked the students to be patient and wait for the director. All this time, Xiao was remembering Qin Yaran, who he met on the road, to whom they had already said goodbye, and he finally took the first step towards his dream. At this moment, a purple fire lion suddenly appeared and roared loudly. It made an indelible impression on the surrounding students. It was truly an incredible sight. Soon, Headmistress Ruin herself appeared, and everyone began to applaud her. The winged beast landed spectacularly, and Su descended to the ground, where Dean Kang was waiting for her. Lin asked her to say a few words to the freshman, and the girl agreed with pleasure. Yu at this time remembered the woman, because it was she who defeated the Shadow Dragon that evening. Ruan congratulated the students on joining their academy and reminded them of one important detail. It doesn't matter what family they come from, poor or rich, because here they are all equal. They are also obliged to obey her in everything and obey the special 8th rule. All the students began to whisper among themselves, trying to understand exactly what rule they were talking about. Su stated that it was to resolve the conflict between two students in the arena. Regardless of who was right, it seemed to Xinyu that this was the right decision so that the arrogant offspring would not go unpunished. Suddenly, one of the freshmen asked if he was the same Xiao, who has a spiritual beast with the stats of senior disciple Ning Shuang. Teacher Qingyan ordered him to immediately calm down and sit down in his seat. The guy immediately fell silent and followed the teacher's demand, after which the lesson finally began. However, a moment later, the young man again said that from now on he would follow sin everywhere. An angry Chen once again called him to silence and wrote the topic of the lesson on the board. Then he asked the students to open the first chapter of the Illustrated Guide to Magical Beasts. King reported that the strength of a tamed monster is determined by two factors. The first is the form of the beast. Where there are gradations in stages, from the initial to the mature form, there was also a full form. However, in addition to this, there was a transcendental form and a demon king. The second factor is the quality of the pedigree, which also has a classification from lowest to highest. Moreover, they have their own attributes: water, fire, metal, and earth with wood. Based on these 5 elements, the attributes of sand or lightning may appear. But this was already the topic of the second lesson. Unexpectedly, the teacher paid attention to the sleeping Xinyu and did not tolerate such behavior. As a result, Qinyan threw chalk at him and ordered him to stand up immediately. Then he asked Xiao what the weakness of the demonic lizard was, adding that if he does not answer correctly, he can already pack his things. But suddenly, the young master replied that the weakness of this beast was the bag of poison under its belly. Chen again asked where the ice crocodile lived. The main character stated that it was located near Shuangjiang Lake and Kunlun Falls. King again asked what he would do if he met a demonic tiger. Zhao said he would hold the token in his teeth and hide. The perplexed teacher clarified why he decided to do this. Yu again surprised the teacher by answering that the sky-tearing tiger is the king of beasts, and his only rival is a strong trapper. And that is why he will hold an identification tag in his teeth, so that his relatives will identify him and hide in the shadows. In order to prevent the rapid decomposition of tissues, Chen was shocked and praised the young cultivator. After asking how he knew the topics of the next classes, Xin showed the reference books on magical beasts and said that he had already studied them. Classmates could not understand where this guy came from and how to keep up with him. Suddenly, Qinyan ordered everyone to study themselves, and Xiao called to follow him. Leaving the classroom, Yu asked the teacher for forgiveness and promised not to sleep during his lectures anymore. But Chen was interested in something else: how he learned the theory in half a lesson. The guy replied that it was all thanks to Qing's talent for teaching. This greatly infuriated the teacher, who urged him to move on to more complex material, after which he gave him a pass to the library of the Azure Dragon Academy, adding that with it the teenager will be able to visit the library and borrow books for free. Then he patted the young man on the shoulder in a friendly manner and said that he had nothing more to teach him. Naturally, the guy immediately followed Yan's advice and went to the library, where he began to study various treatises that interested him and master hunting. At this moment, the son of Deputy Dean Dongsheng suddenly appeared in the room. His name was Wang Yan. He immediately ordered everyone present to immediately leave the library, adding that the girls can stay to work out with them. Of course, most people left this location in fear. The frightened girls asked not to touch them. But Wang imagined himself to be a god and continued to pester young ladies, which Xiao did not like, who, a moment later, threw the book at Yan and hit him right in the head. The stunned son of Dongsheng asked who dared to do this. His accomplices pointed to Yu. Xin, in turn, ordered him to leave immediately and not bother the girls. Suddenly, one of them called on him to leave, since Wang was the son of the deputy dean. Xiao finally understood why he was behaving so brazenly. Yan naively believed that the teenager would be scared. In connection with this, he became even more angry and ordered him to fall to his knees. However, Xinyu began beating him instead, and Wang's gang were shocked by this turn of events. A couple of seconds later, Yan collapsed on the floor and writhed in pain. His friends didn't even know how to help him. A moment later, the son of the deputy dean said that he would not get away with it so easily, adding that now the guy will not leave the library alive, which Zhao himself had doubts about. For some time, Wang continued to say that he was the owner of the Azure Dragon Academy. But at that moment, Headmistress Ruin came into the library with the teachers and heard his statements. Stunned, Yan could not understand how she came so quickly and why at this particular time. Su stated that since there was a conflict between them, they would have to resolve it in the arena, according to the 8th rule of the Academy, where the loser of a fight is obliged to ask forgiveness from the winner, regardless of who was right. Naturally, most of the students were extremely curious to watch their battle. Some believed that the young master had no chance of winning. Qinyan, in turn, believed in the young cultivator and counted on his strength. The battle was soon to begin to finally resolve the conflict. Van naively believed that he would demonstrate his abilities to his opponent. As a result, they shook hands and Xinyu said that he could simply apologize and that would be the end of their differences. Naturally, Yan did not agree to do this and began to use his ice techniques, with the help of which he immediately summoned his magical leopard. The main character began to scan it to understand who he would have to deal with. Thus, Zhao found out that the beast simultaneously possesses 2 attributes, ice and wind. It was Jin's turn to begin summoning his pet. A couple of seconds later, Black Fang appeared in the arena and appeared in front of Van's leopard. Most viewers agreed that Yuya's wolf looked more terrifying. Ruan, who was watching what was happening, caught herself thinking that she had never met such a magical beast as Xiao's before. Su finally realized that it was actually an evolving form of the storm dog. This was quite strange, because previously it was believed that he had no development, but how Shin achieved this was not clear. Meanwhile, Yan rushed to attack him, declaring that he would soon apologize to him. The ice leopard also rushed towards the teenager in Black Fang. Xiao instantly ordered the wolf to use rapid dashes, which the beast did. In just a few seconds, he got as close as possible to Van's pet. The ice monster, in turn, retreated back, leaving snow trails behind. Chen began to understand that the wolf had the attributes of fire and wind, and the leopard had the attributes of ice and wind. And apparently, he would not be able to overcome the advantage of the elements. At this moment, Black Fang began to evade the attacks of the beast. Yan in turn shouted angrily that he would soon destroy the Xinyu wolf, after which he used various ice skills, and the leopard rushed into battle again. Subsequently, he literally placed Black Fang in a huge ice flow. The young master did not know what to do or how to resist Wang's cold. Dongsheng's son said that very soon his pet would freeze to death. The teachers and the headmistress of the academy wondered what the main character would do. However, suddenly the young cultivator had an idea and he literally burst into a smile. Then he ordered the wolf to activate a certain ability called Hunting in the Dark. The iceberg burst at the seams and gradually began to melt. It was incredible. After all, in fact, Xiao's pet turned out to have 3 attributes, which surprised the teachers and Su. At the same time, Black Fang suddenly disappeared and the stunned Yan began to look around. Finally, everyone realized that the wolf had become a shadow and therefore the ice could not hold him. At that moment, the beast suddenly attacked Van, but the leopard came to the rescue in a timely manner and attacked Jinyu's pet. But as it turned out, it was really just a shadow, and the real Black Fang stood next to the owner. After which, Yu called on the wolf to once again attack them using powerful techniques. Pet Xiao instantly began to deal crushing blows to the leopard. The ice beast immediately stopped and was unable to move. Zhou understood that the Oblivion Claw skill is an attribute of darkness, and when it hits a target, it causes paralysis for 3 seconds. Xin then ordered Black Fang to use his hellish howl. A moment later, a fiery beam pierced the body of the ice monster Yan. It seemed that everything was over. The leopard was in incredible pain and could not continue the fight. In this connection, Xiao was quick to declare the winner of this battle. The students were delighted. Wang, in turn, could not believe that everything ended this way, and Yu defeated him. At that moment, Xin approached the defeated man and said that he had lost. The headmistress demanded that the son of the deputy dean apologize immediately. However, the guy was silent. Su directed her withering gaze at him. Yan began to understand what disobedience could cost him, but it was difficult to overcome his pride. Finally, collecting his thoughts, the young man asked the winner for forgiveness. Ruan praised Xiao, saying that he was the second person to impress her with his talents. But Wang did not want to leave things like that. The headmistress also invited Xin to compete in the freshman ranking tournament in 3 days. Yu thanked the head of the academy and asked who was the first. Su answered without hesitation that it was an incredible maiden named Ye Ningxuang. The guy had no doubt that it would be about her, because everyone was talking about her strength. At the same time, Ruan gave the teenager a spatial ring, saying that this was his reward. This was truly an unimaginable gift for Xiao, and he thanked Su once again. In this ring, it was possible to store things and even food, not to mention magical animals. Naturally, the young master accepted the gift from the head of the Azure Dragon Academy, after which the main character went home since his sister was probably already worried. But unexpectedly, going around the corner of the building, an unknown girl crashed into the young cultivator. Xinyu managed to hold her and asked if everything was okay with her. The baby answered positively. Xiao stroked her head and urged her to be attentive and look around. Suddenly, the girl said that she had no home and she wanted him to shelter her. The guy was in shock. Of course, he felt sorry for the child and took her with him to the family hostel. The stunned sister asked why he brought this girl, believing that her brother had kidnapped her. Then the young man told her the story of how Shar ran away from home due to numerous bullying, and since she is afraid of magical beasts, he decided to help her overcome this fear. At that moment, Meng began to tearfully ask Zhou to allow her to stay with them, because it was impossible for her to be at home. Finally, Rie's heart melted and she agreed to take in the baby. Unexpectedly, the sister urged Xiao to never date a girl from the Ye family. The next morning, Xin immediately went to the Azure Dragon Academy. The teenager constantly thought about his sister's words, not to date the girl from the Yi family, and did not understand why she even talked about it. At this time, a pestering classmate asked Xiao what the role distribution on the battlefield was. Yua replied that most trappers work as a team and their roles vary. The shooter has ranged combat abilities and destroys enemies at a distance. Mages, in turn, have mass control skills and give the team an advantage in battle. The so-called tank fighters have fairly strong defense and act as the team's shield. The killer is endowed with high maneuverability and, as a rule, finishes off the one with the least health. And support is famous for its strengthening and healing techniques that are applied to team members. Then Shen asked what role his storm butterfly would be best suited for. Suddenly, Chen heard the conversations and demanded Wu to stop this farce, after which he ordered the students to call on their pets one by one to decide on their role. The first was Song, who summoned a huge bull. Qingyan declared that from now on he was a tank fighter, since his beast had good defense. Yu became a magician because his butterfly possessed mass skills based on the element of water. Then it was Xiao's turn, which is what the teacher said. The guy took a couple of steps forward. Chen asked if he was really ready since the first test was an attack test. The teenager responded positively with confidence, and soon a magic circle appeared under his feet. A moment later, a powerful wolf named Black Fang appeared. Sin immediately commanded him to attack with his Hell Howl ability, resulting in an explosion. It was a triple critical hit. Everyone present was shocked by such force. Because the attack caused 6,371 units of damage, the students were once again shocked, realizing that they would not have such power. Even teacher Qingyan did not understand how this was possible, because usually novice trappers could inflict no more than 2,000 damage. Xinyu said that, apparently, the role of a killer suits him better. However, Chen encouraged him to continue to demonstrate all his abilities. The next test was for range, and the Xiao Wolf hit the target from 800 meters, so he could become a shooter. But at the same time, Black Fang also had protective barrier skills, which absorbed most of the damage. At the same time, the dog possessed control techniques and had the ability to bind the enemy with chains. King conducted research and stated that Shen's beast truly had incredible potential. Shen suddenly said that in this case, you could choose absolutely any role in the team. But the teacher said that in fact there is another responsible role. Thus, the young master received the honor of being called a universal. The perplexed students in turn asked what exactly this meant. Chen replied that this is the name given to those trappers who are suitable for any role in the team, adding that such warriors are extremely rare, especially since Xiao is the only universal in the group. The main character, of course, was extremely pleased to hear this from the teacher. The rest of his classmates began to ask the young cultivator how he became so strong. The guy, in turn, began to be modest and said that in fact he was not that cool. Qingyan noticed that he was not the only one, and that there were equally talented students in other groups. In the second group, these are Ning Shuang and Han Tianjian, and in the third, Murun Qinghiang and Li Xuanchen. And therefore, they all still need to work a lot to achieve good results. At the end of class, Zhao was in good spirits and headed home. On the way, the young man wanted to buy supplements for Black Fang, because a raiding tournament was coming very soon, and he needed to prepare for it. However, unexpectedly, a crowd of unknown people blocked his path. The perplexed young master asked what they needed from him. In the crowd, Jin was able to spot Wang, the son of the deputy dean, and realized that he had come to take revenge on him. Moreover, they were members of the Black Tiger Guild. Yan ordered his accomplices to break Yu's legs. Lei crushed the bones and noticed that the boy should not have crossed the path of their master. Xiao drew attention to their stars sewn on their clothes and realized that they had at least the third or even fourth level of hunting. In this connection, he asked if they were not ashamed to attack a first-level trapper. Van, in turn, began to be overly ironic and say that it didn't matter. Lei immediately summoned his Thunder Tiger and sent it towards Jin. Yu immediately prepared for defensive actions and called on Black Fang, who immediately rushed to attack the tiger, which he did quite successfully. Since the wolf managed to bite through the neck of Lei's magical beast and inflict extremely painful damage on it, as a result, Zhao's pet literally overwhelmed the tiger and continued to bite it. Lei was shocked that the storm dog was so cute and didn't understand how this was possible. In addition, his tiger was at the last stage of development and was quite strong. Then Yan's henchman said, "Now they will see what his dog is capable of," after which each of their clans summoned their own tiger with different attributes. Yinyu understood that in this situation he could not cope alone. Suddenly, at that moment, a female voice stated that she had always been interested in one thing. Who is stronger, the Black Tiger Guild or heaven? Xiao turned around and saw Qin in front of him. The young master never expected to see the daughter of the head of the Heaven clan here. The naturally joyful protagonist greeted the girl and asked how she ended up here. The frightened Leia at that moment began to panic and scream that they were surrounded. Knowing full well that even the strongest Storm clan does not want to get involved with their guild, in this regard, the members of Wang's gang asked Yanran what brought her here. The girl confidently approached the young cultivator and declared that he was her brother. Lei objected since she was the only daughter of the guild leader, but Qin said that he was her sworn brother, adding that if anyone dares to offend him, he will have to fight her first. And also with the entire Heaven Guild, at that moment the rest of the clan members approached Zhan. Yan's accomplice, scared to death, said that there had been a small misunderstanding. Then he pointed to Van and said that he was the one who ordered them to cause trouble for her brother. The deputy dean's son immediately apologized to her and stated that he had no idea about their family ties. At this time, Yan Zhan turned to Lei and said that he knew what to do. Moments later, the trappers from the Black Tiger Guild began beating Yan. Afterwards, Qin brought Xiao to her base of the Heaven Clan and asked how he managed to do this. Yu replied, he just wanted to buy tonics for his wolf. The girl stated that the young man could have asked her. Moreover, their clan specializes in this. Shin, in turn, thanked the young lady for her help. Keen then gave him a tour of the guild base and showed him their gym, as well as a relaxation area with a sauna and a conference room where they resolved important issues. At the same time, they had a medical room with advanced equipment and a wide range of medicines, and their trapping doctors were highly qualified, providing services for wounded animals. Suddenly, Xinyu asked if he could join their clan and become a doctor. Suddenly, the deputy head of UA entered the room and refused the guy's request. Because Xiao was too young and inexperienced, so this is out of the question, Liu stated firmly. Yanzan also ran up to her and said that he was the same person who helped her on the train. At that moment, a frightened guy ran up to them and said that they had been delivered seriously wounded animals, adding that they do not have enough people to help them. Yui urged him to calm down and contact other branches, after which she asked Qin to take care of this issue. However, the young man said that there was absolutely no time, because the animals were bleeding heavily. Suddenly, Xinyu volunteered to help, saying that there was not a second to lose. Meanwhile, Rogostiff was brought to their guild with severe bleeding. They took him to the third operating room and hurried to stop the bleeding. However, they did not succeed, but they had to act quickly. The clamp also did not help stop the bleeding. The situation was critical, and the usual methods did not work at all. The main character understood that he needed to be scanned, which is what he began to do to find out how he needed to act. Finally, learning that Rogostiff was injured during the battle with the Queen Bee, the young master realized that it was the poison that prevented the wound from regenerating. Therefore, the young cultivator confidently stated that he could stop the bleeding and asked the guild doctors to mix a stem of heavenly grass with a purple crystal flower, and also needed a beast core. The doctors were sure that the guy was mistaken, but Xiao urged them to hurry up so as not to lose the animal. Finally, the doctors moved, albeit extremely reluctantly, because they still believed that Yu was wrong. 5 minutes later, this potion was prepared and the doctor gave it to Shin. The young man immediately put on his gloves and opened the potion. Everyone froze in anticipation of a miracle, after which the teenager applied the resulting ointment to Rogostiff's wound. The dog began to growl in wild pain, but then a truly miracle happened. The bleeding stopped abruptly, and the wound began to heal. Everyone exhaled with relief. Xiao turned to the deputy head of the clan and asked if she was satisfied with the work done. Liu instantly apologized for jumping to conclusions about him and officially invited the guy to join their guild. Jinyu, in turn, shook her hand and accepted the offer with pleasure. Yu soon went home, where the embittered sister asked if he really signed a contract with the Heaven Clan. The surprised young man answered positively and asked a counter-question what was wrong. Yuena began to say that he completely forgot about his sister and found himself some rich girl. Xiao began to deny it, saying that now he would be paid well and they would be able to afford much more. After which the teenager said that this weekend he would take them to a restaurant. Meanwhile, Yan was in the hospital where he lay in his room and thought about only one thing. He wanted to take revenge on Shin as soon as possible, but his broken leg did not give him such an opportunity at the moment. Unexpectedly, an angry Dongsheng came to him and called him a weakling. Wang responded by asking him to help him. The deputy dean said that his son could not lose to some hillbilly, but unfortunately this happened. Adding that he had disgraced their entire family, Yan burst into tears and said that Wolf Xiao had 3 attributes. In addition, behind him is the Heaven Guild, which they cannot cope with. Suddenly, Dong proposed to kill Shin with a magical beast on Yunnan Mountain so that no one would think of them. The next day, the teachers took the students to Mount Yun, where the next test was to take place, which will be broadcast on all screens of the academy, and with the help of students' bracelets, it will become clear who killed how many animals. In this case, the one who defeats the largest number of magical monsters will win the competition. The head of the academy called on Dongxing to announce this year's especially gifted students. Then Wang said that according to the results of the entrance tests, 3 students became the best. The first is Asamrende's Murong Yangshuo, who was the eldest son in his family, and also his younger sister Xin. With her hard work, she deserves to be called one of the best. And of course, Xiao, the young cultivator, was looking forward to the start of the test. Yu suddenly remembered that there were only 4 great trapping dynasties in the country: the Ye family, the Li family, and the Murong family of Shangguan. Soon, all the teachers and deans with their deputies went to the broadcast studio of the Azure Dragon Academy, where the main presenter of this test was Yang Shu, who in turn greeted everyone. Ruan suddenly asked Wang how many magical beasts he thought Xiao would kill. Dong replied, 50, but Chen strongly disagreed with him and stated that the young master would defeat at least 80 monsters. However, Headmistress Su completely believed that the young cultivator would break Ning Shuang's record. At this time, students began to enter the territory and the test began. After a few minutes, Lin was able to destroy more than 10 demons, including the short-tailed bear. Tian Hao at the same time eliminated about 20 magical beasts. Surprisingly, within just an hour, Murong had killed as many as 43 mutants, which was an incredible result. Among them was a powerful griffin. He was the only one who had a full form and was an extremely dangerous predator, which, in turn, dealt with the snake, which had exceptional recovery abilities, with particular ease. Yang Shuang called on his aggressive pet Bai to stop torturing the poor snake. After all, they needed to hurry up and take her core in order to move on. Thus, Murong was in first place with killing 50 beasts, her brother was in second place, and Xiao was in third place, which was only 2 monsters behind Xin. The girl, in turn, dealt with the lion. With the help of his bone-winged wyvern with a legendary pedigree, which was a rarity, although the bloodthirsty lion was an extremely powerful predator and dealt 5 times the damage, it could not defeat the wyvern. And if she manages to kill him, then the total number of fallen demons will be 51. It was extremely surprising that the young lady had surpassed her brother in murders. But unexpectedly, Yan Shuang looked at the statistics of killed magical beasts and saw that someone had overtaken his little sister. In fact, a minute earlier, when Xin was fighting a bloodthirsty lion, and she was already ready to kill him, she naively believed that she would win this competition. However, at the most crucial moment, Jin Yu unexpectedly appeared with his wolf. The guy acted extremely confidently, and as a result destroyed the monster. Murong was stunned, and did not understand when the young master managed to steal the beast from her. The young cultivator, in turn, thanked the girl because she distracted him with herself. The enraged Jin began to insult the main character and say that he would not get away with this. Thus, Yang announced the results of the table, where Xiao was at the top. However, it was too early to relax because a 3-eyed ant suddenly appeared. It was quite curious who would dare to fight this demon. Naturally, Xinyu was the first to rush to attack him and use the wolf's pinning technique. This ability ignored various insect blockages, and Xiao called on Blackfang to finish off the monster. A moment later, a fiery beam from the teenager's pet shot towards the ant. Xin decided to use the wyvern to stop the wolf and kill the magical beast, to be able to use necrotic flame and destroy the 3-eyed demon herself. Subsequently, it was Murong who finished off the unfortunate monster, obtaining its core. Xiao, in turn, noticed that the girl turned out to be quite vindictive. Su immediately reported that Xin had equaled Yu in the number of kills. By that time, there was less than an hour left until the end of the test, and it was not clear who would win. The guy instantly rushed into the forest, where he found another magical beast. However, as before, Murong was the first to defeat all the wyverns with the help, and wherever Xiao went, a vengeful rival tracked him down. Thus, she confidently secured first place and was more than 5 kills ahead of her pursuer. Ayu noticed that she couldn't steal monsters from him so shamelessly. But the young lady didn't even think about stopping. By the way, the audience liked her. Xinyu suddenly announced that he no longer intended to give in, and now she should get ready. With only half an hour remaining, the main question was whether Zhao would have time to return to first place. It is worth noting that the record for the number of defeated demons has already been broken. But Yu really began to take away all the animals from Murong, and at the same time not give her the opportunity to steal from him. Then Shin decided to kill only air demons, naively believing that Xiao would not be able to reach them in the sky. But as soon as she approached the griffin, Black Fang used the pinning technique. Subsequently, he absolutely calmly killed the bird. The angry Shin called him a scoundrel. Meanwhile, there was less than a minute left, and Yu declared that there was nothing she could do. In response, Murong again called him a scoundrel several times, and the teenager asked if she really only knew one word. Xiaoran passed a rock, behind which, as it turned out, another animal was hiding. The third form lion instantly jumped out from behind cover and tried to attack Xinyu. The guy immediately jumped on Black Fang and prepared for a collision. However, he completely did not take into account the fact that there was a cliff ahead of him. Accordingly, the young man flew off the wolf and sank into the abyss, where he managed to grab a protruding branch. The frightened Murong instantly rushed to his aid and slowly crawled to the cliff. The wyvern was fighting the lion at this time. Shin called on Xiao to give her a hand so that she could pull him out. Suddenly, Yu turned around and saw Wang in the bushes, which made him suspect something was wrong. The branch in turn suddenly began to break. The guy understood that this could be the end of him. Frightened Murong still tried in vain to reach Xinyu's hand, but subsequently he fell down. Meanwhile, in the broadcast room, the teacher and headmistress of the Azure Dragon Academy were in shock. Chen said that he would immediately go to save his student. Zhan also decided to help him in the rescue operation, after which they hurried out of the room. Dongsheng was left alone. Extremely pleased, Wang believed that the young master was already in the kingdom of the dead. But in fact, the young cultivator was able to survive and lay at the foot of the mountain. A few minutes later, the main character opened his eyes and discovered that he was indeed alive. Before Xiao's eyes stood the smug face of Yan, whom he saw before the fall. Naturally, Yu understood that he had a hand in the appearance of the lion of the third form. Turning around, the guy saw the mutilated pet and rushed to his aid. As it turned out, Black Fang substituted his body to save his master. Sin instantly generated medicine to try and heal the wolf. Xiao helped him drink the medicine and said that he would definitely recover. At that moment, it suddenly started pouring rain, which was extremely inappropriate. In this connection, the young man began to find a suitable place to hide and wait it out. After several minutes of wandering through the forest, Yu finally found an unknown cave. Together with Black Fang, he hurried to the gorge and began to wait for the end of the rain. He had time to think, and of course the guy remembered his sister, realizing that she was clearly worried. He also did not expect that Murong would rush to help him. The young man had a different opinion about her. At that moment, Shin heard some suspicious rustling and turned sharply. But he never saw anyone, but he had no doubt that there was someone else in the cave. A moment later, someone grabbed him by the neck. The teenager tried to fight back, but the grip was extremely strong. The unknown girl said, since he saw the Empress's face, he will have to be killed. Xiao immediately used a scan to find out who she was. As a result, it turned out to be a nine-tailed fox in the form of a first-degree beast king. The girl, in turn, was surprised that some person knew who she was. At the same time, he realized that he could not cope with her, and therefore Yu tried to talk to her. Sai noted that she needed medicine for the pureblood dragon's injury, or she would die in half an hour. The shocked fox asked him how he knew about this. Xiao instantly revealed the seal on his hand, which literally blinded her. Subsequently, the demoness released him, and the young man immediately retreated back, after which Yu replied that since he understood who she was, it means he knew about her injury. At the same time, Zhao did not understand where the purebred dragon came from, because they became extinct 300 years ago. But first of all, it was necessary to help the fox stabilize its condition. But the girl did not believe in his abilities, because the teenager was just a one-star trapper, stating that even the most eminent doctors from his guild would not be able to help her. But Xinyu assured that it was actually not that difficult to heal her and that he could help. But first, she must conclude a contract with him so that after recovery the fox does not kill him. Such a proposal only angered the demoness, realizing that he wanted her to submit to him. The young master said that in any case, she had no other choice. However, the fox had a different opinion and hurried to kill the young cultivator. But as soon as the fox grabbed him by the neck again, the young lady felt weak in her body. The main character said that she could easily kill him, but in that case she wouldn't live either. The demoness in turn began to understand that she would really have to make concessions to the person. Xiao asked if the dragon's power had penetrated her heart. It was a rhetorical question. The fox understood that she could not die now. because she needed to fulfill her sister's instructions. A few minutes later, the girl finally agreed to his conditions, which she stated displeasedly. Jinyu immediately bit his index finger. The fox was perplexed. The guy, meanwhile, pointed his bloody finger at her. The young lady did not understand what he was doing. As a result, Yu put his finger on her head and said that from now on she belongs to him. Magic pollen immediately spread throughout the cave. The demoness asked if he could now cure her. The teenager answered positively and began to take off his outerwear. The dumbfounded girl asked what he was doing. Xiao took the dagger in his hand and said that there was no other way to cure. After all, for this he is obliged to give her his blood, after which Jin plunged the knife into his chest. Then the young man called on her to drink his blood, which became a real test for the demoness. The fox flatly refused to do this and ordered him to get dressed immediately. However, Jinyu insisted and said that his blood would protect her heart. The stunned fox understood that there was no time, as well as no other way out. And as soon as she drank a small part of the teenager's blood, the demoness felt something special. Her body was enveloped in flames. For a while, she forgot about everything and finally gained strength. Soon, Xiao got dressed and said that her heart was protected for a while. He also asked what her name was. The girl shyly answered, Delu. At the same time, an extremely curious girl asked if he could tell her a secret. How did Shin find out that she was injured by a purebred dragon? Yu was deep in thought at this time and believed that the disappearance of the dragons could be related to her. Xiao stated that he had dragon blood in his eyes about 2 months ago. And now, when he concentrates, he sees a certain panel with information about the animals. The fox caught herself thinking that the teenager really had eyes like a demonic god, and they can see any information about anyone. But she didn't know how this could happen to a person. Delu tried to understand who he really was and whether he was lying to her. Yu suddenly asked why she was silent. Suddenly, Lu came to the conclusion that if he really had the eyes of a god, then that was even better. Moreover, from now on, he is her master, and therefore she decided to tell him the truth. That his eyes changed under the influence of dragon blood and became the eyes of a demonic god. But Zhao said that this was some kind of system. But Dai hastened to refute this information. But at the same time, the young man did not understand why in this case he heard that voice, which urged him to feed the core to Blackfang so that he would evolve. After all, this first happened to him precisely after the attack of the Shadow Dragon. And before the exam, Jinyu actually gave the crystal to the Storm Dog, and the magical beast instantly moved to the next stage of its development. The teenager was extremely curious when he would hear this voice again. Meanwhile, an unknown fiery monster approached their cave. Delu urged Zhao not to stand there like a pillar and to immediately take at least some measures. As it turned out, it was a lava lion, because of which the main character fell off a cliff. The young master never expected that the magical beast would find him here. At this time, the mutant rushed to attack, but the young cultivator managed to jump to the side. Realizing that his affairs were bad since Blackfang was severely wounded, as well as the fox. However, even in this state, Dailu delivered a series of crushing blows to the lion. Initially, Shinyu didn't really understand what happened. The beast instantly switched to Lu, who noticed that even though she was wounded, this monster must be driven away. The demon, in turn, jumped towards the nine-tailed fox, trying to damage it. But the girl was extremely dexterous and once again dodged the beast's attack. At that moment, something unimaginable happened. Dai used her best ability. As a result, the lion instantly turned to stone and subsequently crumbled into small pieces. Xiao said that they had finally dealt with this lava monster. However, after a couple of seconds he felt bad, and the guy lost consciousness, collapsing to the ground. A moment later, the young man went straight into his clouded mind. A huge dragon, about which the fox had recently told him, was looking at him. The shocked teenager looked around and asked the snake where he was. The demon god replied that he was the one who helped him in the evolution of the storm dog. Xiao asked who the dragon was. The monster said that he himself did not know who he was, but the blood of the dragon awakened him, adding that one thing he knows for sure is how Jinyu will achieve greatness. In addition, the guy had already seen his abilities. Yu assumed that we were talking about his system. The dragon said that he would help him climb to the top of this world and make him a great warrior. But Zhao again asked where they were. The god replied that this was his consciousness and he decided to meet him. However, it's still time for him to wake up. Jin asked another question when they will see each other again. The demon's eye said that in fact he was always nearby. And after a couple of seconds, Yu woke up in the hospital. Turning around, Zhao saw Su and Chen worried and asked their forgiveness, because he had made them worry. The headmistress of the Azure Dragon Academy said that the rescue team found him near the cave. The corpse of a lava lion was also found there. Ruin asked what he knew about it. The young man said that he had no idea because he had been unconscious all this time. The head of the educational institution urged him to rest and noted that they would definitely figure everything out. King Yan informed Shin that he and Murong had achieved a C+ rating and set a new record for killing demons. But the main thing is that he now needs to recover before the rating tournament, after which he and Su left the chamber. Suddenly, the seal on Yuya's hand sparkled, and Delu came out of it. The guy was pleasantly surprised. The fox said that he sacrificed his blood to save her and lost consciousness from his injuries. And when the rescue team arrived, she hurried to hide so that no one would see her. The nine-tailed fox then asked the owner if he was sure that the fall from the cliff was an accident. Xiao replied that in fact he knows who set this all up and will soon be in trouble. Xinyu was determined and had no intention of forgiving Wang this time. Meanwhile, Yan ran to his father and told him the terrible news. Dongxing urged him to calm down and calmly tell him what happened. The angry son showed him news on the internet, which said that the winner of the competition had survived. Wang Jr. noticed that the young master would definitely not forgive them for this and would definitely try to take revenge. But Shen stated that the young cultivator had no evidence, so they had nothing to fear. However, the frightened Yan did not think so and constantly asked what they should do. His father ordered him to immediately pull himself together and grabbed a certain box, after which he said that ultimately they need to kill Xiao. Then Dong threw an unknown box to Wang. At this time, the main character was discharged from the hospital and hurried to go to the dormitory, where Yu suddenly called him and asked how he was doing, after which he congratulated him on first place in the competition. Qin Yu understood that everyone was really worried about him, which couldn't help but make him happy. Wu continued to say that Yu would succeed and would definitely win the competition, which was nevertheless postponed. Xiao then asked Shen if the rating tournament was postponed because of him. Yu confirmed his suspicions and said that the academy even declared an emergency when he fell off a cliff. The young man became very interested and began talking about the upcoming freshman competition, where all participants are distributed into groups and the order of matches is determined randomly, and only then the 8 finalists will begin to fight for prizes. Xinyu replied that everything would be fine and wished good night to his obsessive classmate. After all, Xiao himself understood perfectly well that a good result in the tournament would guarantee him financial support from the academy, after which he began to think that the abilities of animals depend on the level of spiritual energy of the owner. And the stronger the magical beast, the more spiritual energy chi is needed. And with the help of the resources of the Azure Dragon Academy, Yu will be able to accelerate his development, so that the situation like with Dailu does not happen again, where her skills literally exhausted him, and with her help he will destroy the Wang family. However, Shin did not know how to increase his spiritual energy before the freshman competition began. Moreover, it was impossible to stop developing. Suddenly, he got the idea to ask the demonic god about this. After some time, Zhao fell into a deep sleep and literally fell into his subconscious. Finding himself right in front of the demon's eye, the dragon asked him why he was constantly looking for the easy way out. Yu smiled and replied that he just wanted to take the opportunity to ask him for help. The demon said that if the young man helps him regain his memories, he will reciprocate. Jin agreed. God also noted that only deep meditation would help him penetrate and connect with consciousness. At the same time, he modernized the system, and from now on, Xiao was able to use the store. And for completing various tasks, he will receive rewards and points, for which he can purchase items from the store. Without thinking twice, Yu clicked on the icon of the dragon's spiritual pill, and all the information about it was displayed to him. God approved of Shin's choice and noticed that the capsule had a lot of side effects. He also informed Xiao that all he had to do was call the divine panel to activate the system. The dragon then urged the teenager to return, as he needed a good rest. At the same time, God urged Yuya not to disappoint him. The guy promised to do everything possible. The next day, having slept well, Shin went to class, which he informed his sister about. Zue urged him not to overwork himself because he had only recently been discharged from the hospital. Walking down the street, the guy thought only about the upcoming tournament, which was supposed to start today. Suddenly, he noticed a wanted poster for his recent girlfriend. Where there was a cash reward of 3 billion for the capture of the nine-tailed fox, she was accused of theft. Naturally, the young master immediately called Dela and said that she had deceived him. The stunned protagonist asked why she didn't tell her that the imperial family was looking for her. The girl replied that he did not ask her, and if he so wants, he can hand her over to the Empress for a reward. Naturally, Xiao didn't think about it and said that they should trust each other, and therefore she is obliged to tell him everything. For a long time, the girl could not gather her thoughts, but in the end, she decided to tell her owner about what happened. Dai showed a certain crystal and said that it was because of it that Shangguan put a reward on her. The guy, in turn, asked what kind of stone she had in her hands. The nine-tailed fox stated that this was actually the supreme treasure, the tear of dragons. According to legend, purebred dragons have three great treasures: the scaled sword, the dragon king's whiskers, and the dragon's tear. The blade and mustache are artifacts with destructive attack power and can be used in battle. And the dragon's tear is not intended for combat use, but consists of thousands of tears of purebred dragons. And if you use all its power, you can turn back time and go back to the past. You asked Lu if not all purebred dragons died out 300 years ago. And what exactly is hidden behind the war 300 years ago against powerful dragons? Suddenly, the fox disappeared, and once again hid in the young man's seal. Since it was at that moment that Yang Shuo approached him with his sister Xin, Murong noted that next time he needs to be more careful so that he does not have to get out of hell. He added that after he fell off the cliff, his sister couldn't even eat for several days, and only when she saw on TV that everything was fine with him, she began to eat normally. Therefore, he needs to be on guard because Jin's appetite depends on it. Little sister immediately closed her brother's mouth. Xiao smiled and said that he would not make such a girl suffer in the future, after which he urged them to go to the tournament together. However, Shuo refused, saying that they were not that close and that he also stole several monsters from his sister. The teenager silently accepted the accusations personally, realizing that he was partly right. Soon, the Murong family hurried to leave. Xinyu began to reflect on what had happened, not understanding why he was talking to him at all if he was hostile. Meanwhile, the annual tournament among freshmen began, as Yang reported. Xu also encouraged students to draw lots to determine the order of battle. The competition participants in turn immediately lined up. Wang, standing aside, thought only of one thing: how Zhao managed to survive. Naturally, Yan intended to once again make Yu fail. Finally, the turn to draw lots came to the son of the deputy dean, who confidently rushed forward. The students began discussing the recent events in the library and how Jin beat him up in the arena. Of course, he heard all these humiliating remarks from the students and slowly approached the box with the lot, after which he took out the much-desired and necessary piece of paper from the box, on which was written the name of his abuser Xiao. Wang broke into a malicious smile. Everyone began to say that this was an incredible coincidence and that the sworn enemies would meet again in the arena. In fact, this was not an accident, because Dongsheng had previously glued a piece of paper with the name of the main character to the box. As a result, Yan only needed to get it. At that moment, he turned to the young master, confidently declaring that this time he would destroy the young cultivator and his little dog, which Xinyu, of course, doubted, and said that he was unlikely to succeed. Soon the fighters entered the arena and looked into each other's eyes with particular hatred for a long time. Xiao was absolutely confident in his strength, but the enemy, as we know, cannot be underestimated. At this time, Yang Shuo was perplexed and asked his sister why she was constantly looking at Yu. Xin, in turn, replied that after the guy fell off the cliff, he became much stronger. The head of the Azure Dragon Academy thought about what the teenager had to go through. Suddenly, Zhu announced the first round of the 7th match of the tournament, where Wang and Xiao met. A moment later, the leader waved his flag, signaling the start of the fight. Yan instantly rushed to attack, and Yu immediately summoned his pet. Thus, the ice leopard once again met with Black Fang. Also, all the information about the participants' magical beasts was displayed on the board. But Xin immediately noticed that there was something wrong with the wolf's aura. After all, according to the information, the dog was at the first sign of the initial form, but the aura indicated that he was higher than the first. The girl thought about this for a long time and could not understand what was the matter. It suddenly dawned on her that Xiao was deliberately suppressing the wolf's level in order to use the duel to break through. Meanwhile, a brutal massacre began between the magical beasts of the participants. In the first few minutes, it was difficult to understand which side had the advantage. Suddenly, Wang's leopard released a magical ice ball at Black Fang. However, the wolf used a special ability and immediately moved to another part of the arena. Soon the icy fog cleared, leaving behind only wild cold. The spectators in the stands, in turn, froze and hurried to put on their jackets. At this moment, Yan's pet could not find the dog that was behind him. As a result, Black Fang carried out a fairly successful sneak attack. The leopard flew to the side with a wild howl, receiving significant damage. It was truly an exciting battle between the participants' magical beasts. This is what presenter Shu reported, adding that two opposing elements clashed in an incredible battle, after which Jinyu used his signature skill, the Claw of Oblivion. Black Fang was instantly endowed with unimaginable strength and hurried to attack the leopard. It was a truly impressive spectacle, and the spectators were looking forward to the continuation of the exciting fight. Meanwhile, Yuya's wolf dealt a crushing blow to the deputy dean's son's pet. Thus, Wang's six-fingered beast was unable to use his abilities. However, Yan confidently stated that he would not fall into his trap a second time. Then Dongsheng's son hurried to feed the ice monster a certain pill. Subsequently, the beast was literally covered with ice armor, which was quite impressive. Leopard immediately released a powerful ball of frost towards Black Fang. Xin continued to wonder how Xiao had become so strong in such a short time. Literally, the entire arena was covered in ice. Van's pet really became stronger. The young master, in turn, could not understand why the leopard became so powerful. Assuming that Yan had actually used a forbidden potion to temporarily strengthen his beast, the main character decided to ask his opponent if he really used the forbidden capsule. Van urged him to mind his own business and hurried to send the feline representative into battle. Black Fang had a hard time, because he perfectly understood that the beast had become much more dangerous. Small pieces of ice hung on the thick fur of the young cultivator's pet. Xinyu, in turn, urged the storm dog to be on guard and avoid direct attacks from the leopard. Yan suddenly announced that this was not all, and that soon he would feel the crushing power of his beast. After which he used the ice hammer. Huge clots of ice began to concentrate at one point. A moment later, Wang dealt a frosty blow to Xiao's pet, but the wolf managed to jump to the side. However, even so, he was literally surrounded by ice spikes and could not act quickly. The spectators could not understand why Yan's leopard suddenly became so strong, guessing that Yu would soon lose. Dongsheng's son self-confidently said at that moment that last time he succumbed to him, but now Xin will see all his power. Suddenly, Sheng asked Ruan if she agreed that his son's talent was not inferior to Xiao's. Su saw perfectly well the situation her beloved student was in. Su, in turn, said that if this continues, Yuya's wolf will not only lose, but will also receive serious injuries. The young master's teachers and friends couldn't believe that Jin could lose. The guy himself was absolutely confident in his victory and did not even think about giving up. In this connection, he immediately began to use the dog's next skills. Using the Hellfire Lotus's ability, Black Fang overcame the ice spikes. Thus, the wolf approached the leopard, and the worried Van called on the pet to evade. However, the storm dog was already too close, and it seemed that a collision could not be avoided. The Xinyu magical beast did not stop releasing numerous lotuses at the Yan monster. The teachers, like Ruan, understood that this was a last-stage skill, but Dongsheng mentally ordered his son to kill Xiao. Meanwhile, the ice leopard avoided the huge number of fire lotuses sent at it. It was incredible, because Yuya's pet was only in its initial form, but was already able to master the deadly technique. Xin continued to press on Wang's magic monster and did not give it the opportunity to attack. Yu suddenly started talking about how the young man could even surpass Ningxuang and become the best student at the academy. After a couple of seconds, the ice beast still fell into another lotus and received extremely painful damage. As a result of the injuries received, the animal simply collapsed in the middle of the arena. There was deathly silence in the stands. The spectators were shocked by this turn of events. Yang, in turn, immediately declared Zhao the winner of this fight. What the father of the unlucky Wang did not expect, Xin was pleased with the work of Black Fang, just like most of the spectators, who began to applaud the strongest Yuya. Suddenly, on the scoreboard, the characteristics of Hell Wolf Xiao changed dramatically. Thus, the magical beast immediately reached the third degree of its initial form. Thus, Xinyu set a new, unprecedented record in the arena. Yan was shocked. After all, for the first time during the fight, the participant's pet broke through 2 levels ahead. All this time, Van could not believe what had happened and tried to help his leopard, but it seemed too late. The main character, in turn, praised Black Fang for the incredible battle. After all, having destroyed a huge number of monsters during the test, he was on the verge of evolution. Yan still could not get over the death of his beloved pet, who did everything he could. At that moment, the young master heard some debate between the teachers and the head of the academy. In this regard, the young cultivator became curious about what Dongsheng was up to again. Wang claimed that Xiao broke the rule because he killed his son's magical beast. Surprisingly, the majority supported him and demanded that Ruan exclude Xin from the competition. Su stated that she will thoroughly investigate this matter and will not spare those who want to baselessly slander her student. After which the headmistress of the academy ordered the body of the ice leopard to be brought to her so that the veterinarian would perform an autopsy. For a long time, doctors scrupulously examined the body of the deceased magical beast. Ruan hurried them and asked them to give their verdict. One of them decided to answer, stating that the animal's internal organs were severely damaged by the Hellfire Lotus. In fact, Shen had previously bribed the veterinarians and was waiting for a response from Su, but Zhao said that no killer would act so brazenly in front of people. In addition, this skill only attacks the soul, and the leopard died from internal bleeding, after which Jinyu asked the doctor if he was 100% sure of his diagnosis. Having added that it is not worth risking your position for the sake of a penny bribe, the guy thought about it. Yu called for a blood test to find out for sure. The head of the academy agreed with this. After some time, the veterinarian ran to Rector Ruin and began to mumble something indistinctly. Then he nevertheless stated that in fact the beast died from the rampage pill, which came as a surprise to everyone. Yan began to behave aggressively and demanded that the doctor did not dare to blatantly lie to everyone. But the vet presented irrefutable evidence in the form of test results. The headmistress of the Azure Dragon Academy ordered Vaughn to explain himself regarding this matter. All the teachers were shocked and did not understand how such a vile student even studied at their institution. Dongsheng in turn very kindly asked Ruan to give his son one last chance to reform. Su replied that if he plans to continue to cover his son, then they can leave the academy with him. Naturally, Shen understood what this whole situation threatened him with, and he could not allow another failure. Subsequently, the head of the educational institution ordered Yan's immediate expulsion from the academy. Of course, the dumbfounded Van Jr. asked his father what he should do now. Dong said that he would definitely take revenge on Xiao, but the fact of using the pill had already been established, after which, with feigned aggression, he ordered his son to be thrown out of the university. Thus, the 8 best fighters were identified, among whom, naturally, was Yu. This was amazing, because most of the participants had rich parents and, accordingly, opportunities, but the self-taught man surpassed everyone. Yang Shuo told his sister that if he met Xiao in the arena, he would definitely avenge her. However, the girl asked him not to do this, since she personally wants to deal with him. Wu Sheng at this time hurried with good news to the young master, saying that he had become one of the best in the tournament, adding that they should celebrate this event, but Xin had a different opinion. Taking this opportunity, Van went to the teenager's dorm at this time, where he created a real pogrom and scattered Yuya's personal belongings around the room and even broke down the door, which was low on his part. Late in the evening, the joyful protagonist went to his dormitory. After a wild celebration with Shen, Zhao returned home to find himself literally trashed. The young master immediately rushed to look for his sister and Meng in the rooms. A moment later, the young cultivator found Shi, tearful and frightened, which told him that Zhui was stolen by an unknown person in a mask and left a letter. Xin Yu hurried to calm the child down and said that everything would be all right. Then he began to read the letter, which said that if his sister was dear to him, then he should go to the Yingnanshan Mountains. Xiao flew out of the dormitory like a bullet and headed to the place indicated by the kidnapper. Along the way, the guy tried to understand whose hands it was because it was possible that it was Van. Suddenly, in the forest under one of the trees, the teenager discovered his sister Jo. At this moment, a mysterious stranger wearing glasses appeared in front of him. He looked like Dongsheng. An enraged Jin Yu ordered his sister to be released. Sheng asked if he was not interested in knowing who he was. Xiao replied that he had recently had a conflict with Yan, but he would not have the courage to do so, which means it's his father. Suddenly, Dune took off his hood and declared that this was the correct answer, after which the deputy director said that if he were his son, he would make him the strongest trapper. However, life turned out a little differently and he wounded Yan, so he must die. A couple of seconds later, a huge bear jumped out, which Dongsheng summoned. Wang noticed that his magical guardian had the form of a king of beasts, and he is in a state of absolute protection all the time, which makes him invulnerable to physical attacks. In doing so, he can neutralize any control skills, and therefore he will not be able to cope with it. But the young master said that he had to disappoint him, because everything was not at all as he imagined. Then he hastened to call upon his 9-tailed fox and ordered her to kill the bear. Dongsheng was shocked because her aura was truly terrifying. A moment later, Delu appeared and stated that the owner had again prevented her from getting a good night's sleep, adding that if this is the only problem, then she will gladly swat this bear and go to bed. The main character replied that if she really defeated him, she would rest as long as she wanted. Van began to understand the situation he was in and pondered what he should do. The bear, in turn, instantly rushed towards the fox, trying to strike her with a hammer. However, everything was not so simple, and Delu immediately used her signature skill. As a result, within a few seconds, the magical beast Duna was petrified. The stunned Shen did not understand how this could happen and even began to stutter. Suddenly, he remembered that she was the one the Imperial Guards were looking for throughout the country, stating that if anyone finds out about the conclusion of their agreement between themselves, the consequences will be dire. But Xiao said that since he released Dela, Wang would definitely not leave here alive and no one would know about his secret. The self-confident Dongsheng replied that he was a 6-star trapper and some boy could not defeat him. At this moment, the bear statue began to heat up, and the beast subsequently destroyed the stone base. Thus, he freed himself from the shackles and once again rushed to the attack. The young trapper understood that it was necessary to act quickly and put an end to them.